Welcome back, the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer, and this is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. Got a lot of stories about the dumb stuff I did to get put in prison. Also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that actually happened when I was in prison. God forbid you end up in prison, you want to make some of the same mistakes I made. Now, I was pretty smart about staying out of trouble in RDAP, and I'm going to tell you how I did that. I didn't really do RDAP right because it's a stupid program. I don't care what anybody says, okay? The program is designed for people that weren't raised right and don't know how to act right, okay? You're supposed to tell on 3 people a month, not for stuff that could get you extra time or kicked out of the program. That's never something, that's acceptable. It's all punishments, they call it holding them accountable. They try to make inmates tell on each other because, that's the number one rule. You don't tell on people in prison. So they made a whole program about telling on people, and it's about these stupid things. So you hear how loud I'm talking right now. This isn't even that loud. In RDAP, you have to talk like this. If somebody 15 feet away can hear your conversation, that's excessive noise. And you're going to have to sit in a timeout chair for up to 2 hours that evening while everyone else watches TV because you talked a little bit loud. 15 feet away, if you can't hear somebody talking from 15 feet away, you're practically whispering, and that's what you had to do. So, oh man, it frustrated me. These punishments, sitting in this timeout chair, I did it only a couple times, ended up in that timeout chair. My first day in the program, got put in it from Dicky, the fake Muslim crackhead I used to sell dope to that ended up going to prison. He's a spaz, and people thought it was hilarious. They would tell on him for stuff he didn't even do, just to watch him freak out and spaz out. He'd get up front, because see, when they hold people accountable, say you get held accountable, sometimes in the morning they ask, does anybody want to hold anybody accountable? So 5 people walk up there usually, and the 5 people will say, good morning, community. Everybody say good morning to them. There's this whole format, and if you don't say everything in the format, they hold you accountable for improper procedure. Then you're sitting in timeout chairs for messing it up. So you got to learn this whole cult-like procedure of stuff that's absolutely useless that you will never ever use again. And just being quite honest, it's not a drug program. It's not, okay? So they hold somebody accountable. They say, good morning, community. I'd like to hold Mr. So-and-so accountable for excessive noise. Then later on, they have little mock trials. It's a little trial, okay, in which they ask you, what's your clarity? And you say, good morning, community. They say, good morning to you. My clarity is, and you say, you did it, in which case they roll on for feedback, which is when somebody gives you advice, another inmate gives you advice on how you need to do better, and they give you they don't call it punishments. It's like a learning experience is what they call it. Sitting in timeout chair is a learning experience with the empty chair in front of you and a notebook. And if somebody feels like sitting down as they walk by, I'm like, what'd you do? And you know what I did? You were sitting in group. You want to ask me what I did? You know what I did. And then they'll tell you what to do. You got to write it down. There's somebody you got to turn into. 2 other people have to sign it. So there's a coordinated effort to make sure you do these punishments. Okay? So you can also say, my clarity is, I was not doing that. You don't say, I was doing that because. If you try to explain yourself, you automatically get punishments. They don't want you to explain yourself because they're like, oh, you guys have made excuses your whole life, so blah, 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 this, and that. Okay? Another thing, like people who just, excuse their way to everything. They just, you say basically, you did it or you didn't do it. If you do anything else, they gave that punishment called airing your own agenda is what they called that. So anyway, if you say I didn't do it, they ask for additional clarity. If somebody in the audience raises their hand, they call on that person. If that person says, good morning, they do the whole thing. They say, yeah, I saw him do it. He was standing on the compound, or he was being too loud, or whatever. Then they give you go on for punishments. If a second person says, I saw Mr. So-and-so, he was not being excessively loud at that time, then they dismiss the charge. It's done. So sometime me and you will have an agreement. I'll tell on you this day, and then, a few days later, you tell on me, but nobody will be witnesses because we're just making stuff up, and it'll just get dismissed because you had to hold 3 people accountable a month. I didn't want to do that, so I was quiet as a mouse all the time as in the program. I paid off, they have 4 inmates, 1 white, 1 black, 1 Mexican, and the 4th can be like a Puerto Rican or a Native American. That's how they keep racial balances. These 4 inmates have graduated the program. And whenever something happens, there's an issue. They basically get paid to run the program. They settle disputes, speak up, everything else. Three of them. Man, I was paying 3 of them. Not a lot. One of them, he liked Wellbutrin. I'd give him Wellbutrin, once or twice a week. Medication I took prior to prison. I had no idea people abused. Shoot, he was the head one. I was good. And then I had this thing where I made cheesecake every 3 weeks. Incredible cheesecake. And it was incredible because I didn't make it to sell. I made it to eat. I made it to be good. Everybody else's cheesecake wasn't as good because they were trying to make money with it. I wasn't selling it. I make this cheesecake, and there were people that would habitually tell on everybody. I'd go to each one of the people and be like, hey man, got this cake, you want a piece? They got used to it. Every 3 weeks they knew they were getting a piece of this cheesecake, and I give a big old slab. I make a few of them. And they had little packs of cream cheese. That was the main thing I did. It wasn't supernatural. Most people don't even put the cream cheese in cheesecakes, but I'd put like 20 packs, which is the equivalent of a little tub. It would actually be a cheesecake. The other people wasn't even cheesecake, it was just creamer and lemon juice. But it locks up. It's a chemical reaction. It's got to be this specific brand of coffee make creamer for it to work. It's pretty incredible though. But anyway, I'd give each of them this cheesecake. Now there was this one guy, okay, and now Dicky got me in trouble more times than I can count. Dicky was a crackhead that I used to sell dope to, and Dicky loved me because I did him right. I felt bad for him. And I would like to do a video with him one day, but I don't know where I'd do it at. I can't have him in my mom's business. I wouldn't trust him in a room with a pencil I left on the table. I mean, he's that devious of a thief. There was a D.C., Maryland, Virginia bulletin out on CVS's and Walgreens. Watch out for these three, Middle Eastern looking guys. They're going to come in and rob you. They'd come in, load the carts, load the little things with the most expensive, like these filters that were $50 and rechargeable batteries, and run out the door with it, get in a cart, had a piece of paper over a license plate, and return it at a Walmart for Visa gift cards. He'd bring $300 of Visa gift cards a day. I get to prison, he done grown a beard and gained about 80 pounds. I'm like, what are you doing, pretending to be a Muslim? And he just straight up said, well, yeah, because, nobody messes with a Muslim in prison. Well, Dicky did not know how to act right. Dicky was loud, crazy, just... My first day in there, I got held accountable because they couldn't get him without lumping me in with it. And I was mad. Oh, man, I was mad. He's always getting me in some stuff in there. All the time he was getting me in some stuff in there because he wouldn't leave me alone. I did him so good when I was a dealer on the street because I felt so bad for him. I went over to his house one time. I was going to meet somebody. And, I'm giving him something for letting me, meet the people at his house. I go to the refrigerator, they ain't got nothing in it at all. And every time I was over there, I noticed they didn't ever have any food. So I started bringing them dollar hot dogs from 7-Eleven. That's the worst type of pork. And then now he's pretending to be a Muslim. But I bring him hot dogs every day. I give him good deals on stuff. They'd always lie, so they had so much money. Show up, they didn't have that much money. Oh, somebody must have stole. Oh, something good happened. And then his girlfriend, who's like 20 years older, and you could tell she used to be hot years before. Too bad he didn't catch her then. She's got hard lines in her face. Probably about 80 or 90 pounds, but 110 once you add the giant flotation device implants that she had. And she go, baby, what are we gonna do? I swear, that's how she said it, except much louder. Okay, so this cheesecake I made, there were certain people. That was what I had to come up with a plan. I had to come up with a plan because I could not sit in these timeout chairs. I did it the first day of the program. I thought, it's the first day of the program. Out of all the new people, I'm the only one. How did this happen? I'm being quite minding my business. Dicky. Oh, man. And anyway, the one guy, Dicky pointed out, I think he just held us accountable. And it was a dude from Baltimore. Black dude, bald head, big old pot belly. He looked like Morpheus from the Matrix. Had that gap between his teeth, and he was a super programmer, telling on everybody. So he just stayed in the middle of the unit with a paper. They had a group of super inmates that told on everybody. Okay, And I went over there and I said, because if you go up to a person who's going to hold you accountable, you think they are, and you try to talk your way out of it, they call that's a punishment in itself if you try to get out of a punishment. So I go up to him and I said, Alan, right? And he said, yes. And or I said, Mr. Allen, you had to call people by your last name. And I hate that because I got a weird last name, Mum Power. It ain't that hard, but I mean, it's Mum Power. Either my family were hippies or, changed their name for some sort of reason. We can't figure it out. Don't know if, don't quite know it. We've got a little bit, but on that one side we don't know. But I went up to him and I said, was I being too loud? So that way I'm not asking him to do it. He's like, you can't be loud like that in this. I said, man, I didn't think. He's like, we've got to be aware of it. I said, I completely apologize. I understand, if you got on the account. He says, well, I won't this time, but you got to be quieter. I said, I understand. I appreciate that, man. I said, thank you for letting me know about that, And I know he's one you got to watch out for. And Dicky said, Alan's awful. He said, and on top of that, he's got that vizzle. I said, that vizzle? Dicky trying to do, he grew up in the suburb, but then got on drugs and ended up living in the white ghetto in Roanoke. The story was his mom, who was rich, couldn't handle his twin brother and him and his little brother just acting crazy, and the dad became a drunk. So the story I heard from another guy that introduced me to them was the mom bought him a house in Roanoke, sat him down, told him, there's this place called Roanoke, Virginia. Never been there, heard it's nice. Got your bus tickets. You're leaving tomorrow, pack your stuff. Because she couldn't handle them being as crazy as they were. But anyway, with all the lingo, what's a vizzle? That ninja. The super ninja. What are you talking about, man? He's got that HIV. I said, that HIV? You mean he has HIV? He's got that HIV. I mean, Lord, I'm like, man, quit talking like that. You could have just said that. We spent 2 minutes with me trying to figure out what you're talking about. And yeah, but anyway, there was a whole incident with that guy. And there was this other little fella who's a little short, fat guy that apparently 20 people in the unit secretly had been sneaking in the room with him doing nasty stuff. And the day before he left, when people get ready to get out of prison, jail, they don't have any money left, they can't go commissary, they can't pay anybody back, so they're just going to have to starve. So people come, and my cellie knew, he said, yeah, I'll tell you something. He's the Sereno head guy for that. He said, yeah, I'll tell you, give me a list of everybody in here you done something with and what you done with them. And he said, yeah, I'll give you about $10 of stuff. He said, you can ball out tonight. And I'm sitting there in the room, like, and the little guy goes, but you can't show anybody till after I leave. He was almost excited to write it. He wrote that list, and after he left, my cellie went to the library with a copy card, made copies of everybody he done stuff with. Oh, Dicky went off about that, and Dicky was about ready to leave too. Dicky was crazy. He believed in the lizard people. Always reading those David Icke, whatever you call them, reading those books. He's showing them to me, trying to tell me about all this crazy prophecies and all this other stuff. And he wasn't right. He done smoked himself out. But yeah, that cheesecake, I basically started making that and realizing, some people, in here I can bribe, some people I can't bribe. See, I still do. I've got a rental house that's in Radford, Virginia. It's not a special house or anything. The house is worth I think $50,000. It's a little tiny house, but somebody rents it, and they pay about $600-700 depending on which person was living on it, which agreement we had at which time. That money let me live comfortably in prison. That monthly, as long as somebody's in it. There are times when people weren't in it, times I had to evict people, stuff like that. But I mostly just ate commissary. But I'd say, realistically, there were a handful of people. I paid about $5. Gave one guy Wellbutrin. I was not sitting in those timeout chairs. It meant that much to me. I sat in them probably twice. The average person probably sat in them once every 3 or 4 weeks. I was in that unit for a year, so only sitting it twice was, I couldn't stand it. Just stupid. So whenever I got in trouble, usually you go up and they talk about, you got to go up there, you got to talk and everything else. I paid the main guys off, so then I didn't have to go up there and talk. I didn't want to go up stand in front of everybody. I can get in front of a group and start talking about stories about my past and stuff, and it'll be funny. But like, if I get up in some type of formal thing, I get nervous. I get really nervous, like shaky. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes, if I end up doing an interview for somebody just over, like a Zoom call or something, it'll happen then sometimes, Got anxiety. You guys know. I told you I'm a little bit nuttier than a squirrel turd, but, I get by. And if I can get by with all my ABCs of OCD and ADD, bipolar, all that, and not use, anybody can. Now, do you know how easy it would be when I'm feeling the way that I feel, that I can't control, it naturally just happens to me, to just say, well, I can go use, it'll make me feel better. Yeah, but what's going to happen after that? Everything will fall to pieces. I'll lose everything. So had to learn to accept how I work. Like, it's just basically self-realization. Like, so many people are incapable of being honest with themselves. Yeah, I've got issues. I'm aware of my issues, and I know how to live with them. But anyway, in that drug unit, that Cheesecake, I'd make it. And see, I put it in an empty trash can, an office trash can that each cell has. We don't use the trash cans for trash. We use it as a cooler. They have ice machines. Cover it with ice, salt the ice. When you salt the ice, it makes all the ice link together, and you let it sit overnight. Cheesecake's cold as can be, everything else. But yeah, that Cheesecake got all these people paid hitters. Paid hitters. Paid hitters is what I did to the one guy who did tell on me. I'll tell that one next time. Oh man, I paid. There are people that like holding people accountable because they get kicks off of it. I made friends with those people. It was one of those people got kicks off of it that told on Dicky, got me held accountable that first day. But this guy held me accountable. Big mistake. People know I was quiet. I did not mess with anybody when I was in that RDAP drug program. Leave me alone. He did that. I went to the paid hitters. And, I put out a bounty on him with 3 dudes. It was 3 dudes. I believe they was from, I think they were from like Pittsburgh. Feel it. They were from PA, but they were going to West Virginia selling dope there. And they all like knew each other or something. Young fellas. They was cool though. One of them was a rapper. Actually had some stuff. I can't remember. I'll think about it. I'll be able to remember his name. Nothing huge or nothing, but he's actually pretty good. But I told him, I got a bounty for you. Every hour you get this and then timeout chair, I'll give you $1. Man, they got that guy probably 40 hours in the timeout chairs, and it was worth every buck of it. I got to tell that story separately. That guy ended up having to come back to the drug program because he's doing something he shouldn't have done in the visiting room and some other stuff, and they expected him to be like a super inmate involved in the program. Well, he got too super. He shouldn't have done that to me. I didn't bother anybody. I minded my business. Where I've got my little mental hang-ups, like certain stuff bothers me. Like when people go through my stuff, I can't stand it. If they want to go through something my stuff, I'll go through it for them and show them. Kate thought I was hiding stuff when we first got together, and she realized I'm just weird. Like you can go walk all around it, but just don't move stuff around. So I have everything in a place. I'm OCD. So that's one thing. But also, like sitting in this chair, in a timeout chair, while everybody else is just minding their business, like you're put on display. It's basically like the the thing they put you back in, like back in the 1800s, like you did something bad. What do they call them? Where your hands and your head are through a piece of wood, and you just got to stay in there for a day. The stocks or something, I can't remember. That's what it felt like. Didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. The interesting program had 4 DTSs, drug treatment specialists. I don't know how they got that title because there wasn't a bit of drug treatment in it. There was a big old guy who talked like this, and anytime somebody did something he thought was brotherly love, he'd say, "That's RDAP right there." And then there was 2 women with the same name. One was middle-aged, white woman. One was young, light-skinned, really pretty black woman, beautiful. Now the middle-aged white woman and black woman, they both had big old butts. Okay, the middle-aged white woman, it was just No, there wasn't nothing appealing, but she loved getting the attention, people looking at her. When you were sitting in these chairs, because you had to sit in the chairs between 7:40 to 11 or 10:30 when they did this program. When the little light skin would walk by, she wore skin tight pants. She was tiny, big butt. When she walked by, everybody, you'd see everybody lean back, and she walked from one and look. And the white woman get mad because everybody's looking at her. But when people looked at her, said something to her nice, he's like, oh, ate it all up and everything else. The white one, I'll tell you what was really funny. I talked about that DMI enforcer when he was my roommate, and he said, I'm not doing this. Y'all ain't going to do this, blah, blah. That's what it is. Well, they did. They held him accountable, and he wasn't going to write the paper. And I said, dude, I can write. Let me write your paper. I wrote this paper that he had to read in front of everybody, and the middle-aged white one was like, oh. And I'm sitting there laughing, and he's literally laughing because the words don't even sound right coming out of his mouth. He's like, I have been stuck in my criminal ways, and I believe with the help of this program, my brothers, and with this community, that I can be a changed man for my wife, my kids, my family, and be a resource to the community once I leave prison and make a true difference. Like, it was like that type of thing. And he's like, and I can be a resource to my community. And it was funny, but that woman was eating that up. But anyway, it's just a little bit of rant. But at crazy program, I know a thing or two about, treatment and stuff and what works and what doesn't work. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work that's just idiotic, This was it, okay? It was basically, it wasn't, there wasn't anything, wasn't any drug treatment in it. Wasn't. It was about getting out of criminal behavior. So it was a program for drug dealers, but it didn't do anything for addiction, nothing for addicts, okay? And so yeah, I have my issues with it, and yeah, I skated right through it. But so anyway, if you like the video, press the like button. If not, it's 22 minutes and 4 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. Got a good bit of sleep last night. I go through these phases. It's part of the bipolar thing too, and I got the insomnia issues. Think it's basically rode the wave and it's done now. That crazy stuff that happened the other night. I think it's odd because didn't know how to feel about it. It was like almost snapped me back in. It just happens. It's something that happens. I let you guys into my life. It's not something I don't really do, and now I've done it just open to the world talking about this stuff. But it's just what it is with me, and I'm honest with it and let you know about it because sometimes I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna be tired because I ain't slept, can't sleep as much as I try. Even with medicine, I wake up 5 to 10 times a night, and I have to lay in bed 10 to 11 hours to get 6 hours of sleep. Without medicine, I just don't sleep. I've been at the one medicine for a few days. I got it, I believe it was night before last, and yeah, and it's got me back on. I've got to have all 4 medicines. It's like a quadfecta. I was gonna say a trifecta, but it's 4. It sounds stupid now. But anyways, yeah, think back on normal. So yeah, get a little bit manic sometime, but that's what it is. It's just me. I mean, that's just what it is, But there are other people that go through that too. You never know what it's like for somebody living inside their mind if their mind works different. And if me with all my hang-ups and all my stuff and all the craziness can find a way to make it work and stay off this stuff, it would be so easy just to go use drugs and make an excuse to use drugs because I'd be like, well, I feel crazy right now. I feel awful. I feel depressed. I feel this. I feel that. Take a pill, make you small. Take a pill, make you tall. No. I recognize it for what it is, and I recognize that if I do say, well, this would make me feel better, yeah, but it's going to end up somewhere bad. So I've learned to live with it. But anyway, I'll shut up now. Hope you liked the video.